join us. So for those who haven't, for those who first joins Wiseline Academy activity, let me give you a brief information about Wiseline and Wiseline Academy before we jump directly into our main topic today. So talking about Wiseline, we are the global technology services provider. Right now, we have more than 1,050 employees around the world, both offshore and also remote from other countries. And the remarkable milestone for us is 2020, when we received the investment, the majority investment from CDPQ. In the next slide, you can see our global delivery model. We have business model, we have delivery hub, and also remote hub from around the world. In APAC right now, we have the representative in Vietnam, in Thailand, in Singapore, and the remote team in Australia. So far, we already have we have been worked with more than 2020 clients around the world. Talking about Wiseline Academy, we truly believe that talent can be nurtured with access to education. That's why all of the learning activity we are offering right now is free to the community. We since the 2017 until now, we already offer more than 250 courses with more than 24,000 attendees coming from 70 something nationalities around the world. And the purpose of our academic activities is we try to have people landed with a new job opportunity thanks to on the technology that we offer during our program. So talking about academic code of conduct, we hope that all our participants today will be respectful. There are no bad questions or no bad idea. So feel free to raise your concern with our speaker. Be welcoming and patient during our session, and be careful in the words that you choose in communication. Let's agree together some important notes during our session today. All questions are welcome, as we mentioned of the conduct. We will mute your microphone along the course to avoid the background noise. However, if you want to raise your question, please feel free to unmute yourself. And you are welcome to ask your question or concern together with our speaker, so you can ask in any moment. However, please focus on your question. Please focus your question on the presented topic today. It means Android Jetpack Compose. And last but not least, if you face any problem with the connection issue, please feel free to turn off camera to save the bandwidth for the rest of the content. So that's all for my quick introduction. So right now I will hand over the mic to the team.
Thank you very much, Neil. So yeah, we will start with our presentation. So I will introduce myself. I am Armando Ruiz. I am a mobile engineer at Wiseline. I love algorithms and problem solving exercises, or even in our day a day. I love to solve problems in my projects. So I also love video games, and I also love music. I usually play drums, but because nowadays I am a little bit busy with the projects and everything like that, it's very complicated to me play the drums. So yeah, with those, we also have the next slide, please. So we have Eric Gomez. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Yep. Hi everyone, I'm Eric Gomez Rubio, and also I'm a mobile engineer for the Android platform, riding Wiseline. I am very enthusiastic about clean architecture and solid problems to solve problems. I also love guiding people to solve architecture problems. And as Armando said, also problem solving. It's one of the things that I love about programming. Also, I like music concerts, and about pandemic situation. I'm kind of left behind, but I'm trying to recover again. So, also video games and arts are something that I've used to have as a hobby because video games are very important for me since I was a child, and also arts are one of the things that I love the most. Okay, so it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. And then we have Diego.
Hi everyone. Well, I'm a mobile engineer. I also love algorithms. I like to take challenge with Armando about algorithms, and well, it's pretty cool to do that. Also, I really love video games. Nintendo are the ones that I play, like Zelda and Super Smash. And also, I'm a Marvel fan, and my favorite superhero is Spider-Man. I also have a Spider-Man cup, and well, that's it from my side.
Thank you very much, Tim. So, yeah, let's continue with our presentation. And here we have the table of contents. So, we will be talking about what is Jetpack Compose, thinking Jetpack Compose, composition and recomposition, design, and at the end of the workshop, we will have two live code examples about Jetpack Compose, right? So, let's begin with what is Jetpack Compose. Thank you. So next one. So what is Jetpack Compose? Jetpack Compose is a suite of, or is a framework designed by Google and Android in order to let us, our developers, work with only Kotlin code in order to design UIs to in the Android ecosystem, right? So we can forget about the XML files, and we can focus in mainly on how we are designing the Kotlin, the UI for our Android apps using only Kotlin, right? So what are the pros of this framework, or what is the pros for Jetpack Compose? That we technically write less code. It's very intuitive working with Jetpack Compose, as we are only writing Kotlin code. And for example, in those cases, we are like using most of the functionality that Kotlin can give us while we are writing code. Another thing, like a pro, well, that is a pro for Jetpack Compose, is that we can accelerate the development. So if before with the XML files we spend like 2 days in order to achieve or to build one or two maybe screens for our mobile applications. So technically with Jetpack Compose we can achieve that in probably hours instead of days. So this is one of the most important things here with Jetpack Compose. And obviously the powerful is because we can start achieving several things like animations, like custom views, or whatever we want to do with Jetpack Compose. That, for example, with XML involves like working with several files or several configurations. Well, Jetpack Compose can help us dealing with that with less code, and with with more tools to do animations or custom views in our applications. Next, please. So Jetpack Compose is one of those frameworks that came to the Android ecosystem, and then we want to see that we are able to work in the performance, because we are improving the performance, for example, while scrolling a large list of items. We are improving that performance with Jetpack Compose. We can work with large screens. So now we are like we can create responsive UIs with Jetpack Compose. Jetpack Compose has support to warehouse, so that means that we can start working or creating some web applications using Compose, right? So also Compose supports Material U, the new framework for design that Android and Google provide us. And also we can create home screen widgets. So if you usually use like the widgets, for example, for YouTube Music or Spotify, well, Compose also help us to deal with those widgets, right? So below we have a list of applications that currently have implemented the Jetpack Compose framework in their designs. For example, the Play Store is essentially made with the Jetpack Compose or with Compose framework. So most of the application is written by Compose, along with Twitter. Twitter recently published that they will be like migrating to Jetpack Compose. As long it's the same case for Airbnb, Pinterest, and Lyft, and so many other applications that now are migrating the legacy or the XML designs with Compose, right? So it seems that it's the future. We know that probably the last year Compose was released as go out of beta, and now it's a stable release. So this is the future. We need to focus in the Compose and the designs that we can make with this framework. So yeah, next please. And then following the table of contents, we will continue with thinking Jetpack Compose, and my friend Diego will talk a little bit more about this topic.
Thanks, Armando. The next slide, please. Okay, thinking in Compose, there are two ways of programming right now, the imperative and the declarative. Before using Jetpack Compose, the only way to create the UI was using this imperative programming paradigm, that it's basically the way that we are used to do the things right now, that it's telling the view directly what we are expecting to show. And it's difficult at the beginning to start programming in Compose because we need to think right now in a declarative way. What is the main difference? That in a declarative way, we are right now not saying directly what we want to see in the view, but instead we are using a state, and depending in the value of that state, it's what the view is going to respond or share to the final user. The next slide, please. Okay, so here we have a diagram that let us know how we can think in Compose. Every time we press a button or interact directly in the view or in our phone, we have an event. That event updates a UI by an state, and finally we display a final state. This is a loop that everything is going to be repeated over these three events, or well, states. That's how the UI it's updated in this loop. And it's a little difficult at the beginning to start thinking in Compose, but with some practice we can change that paradigm in our way of coding. The next slide, please. Okay, then I'm going to talk about composition and recomposition, that are one of the most new terms that are used now in Compose. Okay, first we need to talk about what is a composable. Well, a composable it's a function, a UI function that let us tell the now to in Kotlin code that we are going to create a UI component. So now every component it's a composable. We have a lot of compose elements like guards, like columns, like text. And now there is a text field instead of an edit text. So there are a lot of elements, and we can create the same UIs as we can do it in XML. Not all the things are already migrated. Like, for example, Google Maps is not already in Compose. So, but they are interoperable, so we can combine Compose code with XML files, and they don't have any problem. So to create a compose, we need to use the tag composable at the beginning, and the new way to create is to create a function, but we used to use an uppercase. This is just for new nomenclature. And with that, that's it. Now you create a new compose, and you can see in the ID that the new we have like a new split where you can saw the final result of the compose we are creating. You're going to see it later in this workshop. The next slide, please. So now we are going to talk about recomposition and decomposition. The composition is all the state that we are going to handle in a composable. So it basically describes the whole UI that we are creating in a composable. The recomposition is the way a composable changes his state without the losing like the information he had before. And in this way, it's better because they only change when they need it, and only change the things that it needs to change, and on not all the component. That makes it weight lighter, and it's better to the view, and it costs less memory to the view to make the recomposition. So as we can see in this diagram, when an event interacts to a composable that may change his state, it enters into this loop, it recomposes, and then leave the composition, and everything stays the same way. So if we have like a list and only one element change his state, it's not going to recomposite all the elements, just the element that we interact within. So as I said, it's better for the memory performance. The next slide, please. Okay, this is very important also. As we said previously, in Jetpack Compose, we are thinking in a declarative way. And this is very important because in the image we have at the right side, we have the login screen and the login input. But as we can see in the code, we are also rendering a login error. But until the state is not the login error, we are not going to use this resource in our view. So after the recomposition show error turns to true, the composable adds this new element to the tree. And this is pretty cool because when something is not shown in our view, it is not consuming us memory, and we can see it in our composable tree that only when the state completes or it's enabled, we are going to display the composables we want to show to the user, and use this resource only when it's needed. The next slide, please. Okay, we are going to do a very quick exercise about design. So the next slide, please. it's also a way to think in Compose. Right now, we have this view. I don't know if everyone has used TikTok, but this is the TikTok app. We can see that we have a toolbar, we have the content, and at the end we have the navigation bar. The next slide, please. So we are going to split this in several micro composables that it's like the way we can start working with Compose. So at this point, we have three elements, as I said, and then we can also, you can put the other one, thanks. We can also split it even more. So now the content we have split the main content in the bottom sections, the video section, and the description of the videos. But we can also split even more. Can you put the next one, please? Yes. And we can also divide the button for the things that are especially in every button, and we can also put even more detail in the description and split it in another composables. So it's like building a Lego where you can create your own composables and put it in the view, and they are very useful, very reusable, and you can use it not only in this view, but in every view that we want to create using the components that you only create once. The next slide, please. Okay, one important thing in Compose are the modifiers. Basically, the modifier, it's an element that every Compose can receive, and it's a class where it determines the behavior and the way we are going to decorate our Compose. So every single composable can receive a modifier. Also, it's a very good practice that every compose that we create receives our own modifier. This is because if we want to change something very particular in every time we are reusing this compose, we can doing it just by modifying the modifier the composable is receiving. So it is a very good practice to add our custom modifier on every compose that we are going to use. So this is basically the most important, one of the most important elements for the compose designs. The next slide, please. Okay, we are going to do a very quick UI to show how powerful Compose it is. So basically, on the right side, we have Alfred Sisley and 3 minutes ago. These two texts are in a column. So in Jetpack Compose, we are going to create views using like the previous way in XML. We have a linear layout that it's basically columns and rows. We have also boxes, and we have constraints layout, but depending on the view that we are trying to do, it's very simple to use it only with rows and column, and in more specific UIs, we can use the other ones. So as we can see, the thumbnail, the thumbnail picture and the text are in a row, and also the last image are in column of the first element that I just said. So we are going to quickly make this view to know how we can achieve this kind of screen design. And the next slide, please. Okay, so imagine you are just putting the two texts in the view like this. You are going to see something similar as the preview I have in the down part. Yeah, this is pretty important. Why is this happening and why the texts are overlapping? Well, this is because we are not using a column element that, as I said, put the composables in a linear orientation. So we need to add a column. So the next slide, please. Yeah, we need to put something like this. As we can see now, we have a column, a text. We are using a font weight bold. That's how Alfred sees turns bold. And we are also using a composition locator local provider that it's basically an easy way to achieve this gray color. We can also do other approaches, but well, this is the way the example put it. And the most important thing is that the two texts are wrapped in a column, and that's the way we can put one element and the other one at the bottom. The next slide, please. Now, to add a row, we can put a surface that it's basically a container of every media elements like images, videos, and those kind of things. And as I said before, every compose can receive a modifier. The modifier, one of the modifier elements that we're going to see later, it's the size. And it's basically, well, the size of the container, that in this case, it's 50 dp. Then we can add the circle shape by adding also the shape in a circle shape class. We can use any shape that we want, a square or even a triangle or whatever we want. We can also create a custom shape and build our own shapes. And well, that's how we can put the image, and the rest of the rest of the code, it's the same. On the column, we add a new modifier that it's a padding of 8 dp. This is very important because this is how we achieve the padding between the image and the two texts that we have on the right side. The next slide, please. So the modifiers. As I said, the modifiers are the way we can modify the elements on the compose. And these are the ones that we can use: padding, fill max height, fill max weight, width, height, size. There are too many. You can try to use it by yourself. What is the most important thing to remember? First of all, there is a modifier to the clickable, so that's the way we can use a clickable. And also, one of the most important things to say about the modifier is that it depends on the way we put every modify beside another. For example, it's not the same to say padding 10 dp and then use the shadow and then use the clickable. It's different to do this than say the clickable, then the padding, and then the size. Why is that? Because they read it, they read the modifier in the way we are putting that modifiers, and they can also be repeated. You can add first a padding, then you can put a clickable event, and then you can use another padding in the same modifier. Maybe you can see this example better in the live code example that we have, but this is the most important thing you need to remember about any modifier. The next slide, please. Okay, Compose original. Well, being honest, Compose is not original. There are other frameworks and IDEs that they are using something similar as Jetpack Compose. This is not a bad thing, just to mention that Android is not the first one using this paradigm way of program the UI. For example, in the left side, we have an example of Flutter code that as you can see, they have similar events than Jetpack Compose. And in the right side, we have Swift UI, that it's basically the Jetpack Compose of Swift, that it's the programming language to create iOS native apps. But well, that's what we want to share, that the Jetpack Compose is not original, but that's not a bad thing. And they also learned from other frameworks that had already worked with this this new way of creating UI. And it's better because now they have this feedback from other platforms, and they created very, very quickly and in a very smooth way that we can learn it very fast. And as you're going to see in the demo, it's pretty easy to use it and to create apps very, very fast. The next slide, please.
Okay, so it's time to build an app. So we were working with the live code example. So next slide, please. Next. So we want to create this application with Jetpack Compose, right? So we want to make it have support with dark mode and the light mode, right? So as you can see, we need to use, for example, an image. That image should be a circle image. Then we have a title, and then we have a description. Well, in this case we have a list because we have several items to be displayed. But yeah, we have like this design, right? So next slide, please. If we want to build that UI using XML and everything, like if we can say like legacy code using XML implementation, you know that we need to build, for example, the UI for each item that we want to display in the list, in this case a recycler view. Then we need to build an adapter in order to start displaying the data in that recycler view. Then we need to create that recycler view in a fragment or in an activity, and then we can start displaying that view using XML, right? So now we want I will be presenting my screen. So let me share my screen. Yeah, here we go. So now we want to achieve that implementation using only Compose in Android. So as you can see, I have set up a very basic application using Compose. So the only thing that I added was like simple data. This sample data is regarding the meal object. So I created a data class meal. Then we have a name, description, and image, right? So I created a very mock list about a list of meal. So nothing special. So probably we can get this information from the network layer, but as this is an example, we are like hard coding this list, right? So but yeah, this list can be from the network layer, right? So then we have our main activity. This is very easy. And then we have like, instead of we are working setting a UI layer like XML or the binding object here, what we are doing here is like setting the theme that Compose is using. That theme is already declared here, and this is made by the Android Studio ID. So technically this is this function is coming when you create a new project, right? So as you can see, we have here support for dark theme and the light theme, so we don't need to worry about nothing. So in the XML implementation, we need to create like the both schemas or XML files for declaring the colors or the styles for dark theme, light theme, etc. So in this case, we already have like this support. So we will be working with this meal compose workshop theme. And as I said before, we are working with that with that theme, and then that theme has a surface. A surface is a container that allows us to use the color that we already declare in the theme or in the application itself. So that's why we are like using a surface. Technically, the surface allows us to change those colors depending of the theme of our application, right? So as Diego said before, everything in Compose is a function, right? So as you can see here, we are using the annotation composable. So that means that we need to use this function like a composable function or composable piece of UI. So then we are using a text to display some content, right? If we go deeper here in the text, we can see that this is a function, and this function has the annotation composable, right? So it means that we have like the compose framework here in that text UI, right? So we have now the default preview. What is this? Compose, or the Compose framework, allow us to preview all our UI in the Android Studio view, right? So for example, here we have like a hello and property Android. So technically we are like saying hello Android, and then we are previewing this widget or this composable here in Android. So that means that we only previewing the UI, but we are not able to interact with that UI. If we want to do that, we can run the application as you can see here, and then we have like a single UI, right? We only have like the hello Android, and then we have here hello Android. Okay, so then we want to build the list of items for the meals, right? How we need to start? So in this case, we need to start creating a new composable function. So for example, here I will write composable phone. Then because I write phone, I need to start typing a name with a capital letter. So in this case, I will write something like mail screen, and then I will put here some content, right? We can replace this function or this composable with my new created composable. So in this case, I will write mail screen. And if I want to preview this new composable, I need to use this default preview, right? So I can write middle screen, and then I can make a build and refresh. And obviously I won't see anything here because I don't put anything here. Then I need to start writing some other kind of widgets. In this case, as Diego mentioned before, we need to start working with columns and rows. Then, how can we write a list in Composable that is, we can dynamically insert items to that Composable? Well, to solve that or to ask that question, we can use something called lazy column, right? Lazy column allows us to insert objects or items to the list, and it will work like a recycle view, right? So in this case, I won't use anything about the content in the lazy column, but as you saw before, I will use a modifier. That modifier, for example, I will set that this modifier, I will say you will use the max size of this, the max size of the screen. So that means that our lazy column will fit the width and the height of the view, right? It's like using match parent for the height and match parent for the width in the XML file, right? So now we have the lazy column, And probably if we build and refresh the UI, probably we can see like a black screen, white screen. So that is because I use the fill max size. So then we are like having all the content here, right? Then we need to start filling the information here. What is the next step? We need to use a function called items. These items comes from the Jetpack Compose lazy list. So as you can see, I need here to start inserting the list of items that I want to use to display the content. So in this case, I will use sample data and then data, right? So that will help me to deal with the information coming from this list. The only thing I will make here, I will write min in order to have like a reference for each item. We can say that this is something like a for each, right? But for the lazy column widget or composable in order to start displaying the information, okay? So then I need to write a UI or a card view in order to start displaying the content that we have here. So in that case, I will write a new composable. As you remember, everything is a composable now. So for example, I will write here meal item card, and then we need to have a parameter here called meal of the type meal, right? Yeah, that's it. Then we can say in every iteration we want to use the meal card, and then we will pass the meal item that we have currently, right? Okay, everything looks good. So the next thing is that we need to create that meal item card. So as you remember, we need to use a row card and then a column for the title and the description, right? So we can start writing a row. Then this row we contain some modifiers. So in this case, I will write modifier. Then I can start writing modifier. Then I can set some modifiers here. For example, that we need to fill the max width of this row. So that means that we can set like a match parent for the width. Then I want to set a padding here, so I can write padding. Then I can say that we want to have like 20 for the padding, and then we can use the extension function dp in order to set the dp property for the padding. Okay, so I think that's it. We fill max width and make a padding for that row or for each row. Then I want to set the alignment for each item vertically. So I will write vertical alignment, and then in this case I can say alignment center vertically. That means that every item set here in our row will be aligned vertically for each row that we have. This is because, for example, the description can be very long, and it will depend on each items, and we want that every item in the row will be aligned vertically, right? So it is not like the image view will be in a up position and the title and the description in another position. So we want to make it be aligned vertically or center vertically, right? So yeah, that's it. We are currently using our row, and in this case we want to display our image. So for our image we want to write image, and this is already a composable function. So we have the painter and the content description, right? So the painter is the source of our image to display the content in this composable, right? So now, because we are trying, if you see the data here, we are trying to display some URL. You know that probably Glide or Coil can help us to deal with loading image content in an image view. So currently, Coil, it's a very useful framework or library that help us to dealing with that using only Kotlin code, right? So right now, Coil has support for Compose, and this is the dependency for that part. So we already have like Coil ready to be used in Compose. So the only thing that we need to do here is to use something called Remember Async Painter. This Remember Async Painter is used to keep the state of each item. As Diego said before, we need when we're working with Compose, we need to remember states in order to display data. In this case, for example, as we need to scroll up or scroll down, we need to keep a reference to that image. So to achieve that, we need to remember Async Image Painter. That means that we need to remember each URL used for each item. So in this case, the only thing that I need to pass to this function is the mil dot image, right? And that's it. We don't need to do anything else. We already set the painter for our image, and then as you can see here, I'm missing the content description. As you know, content description is for accessibility users, or when we are using the accessibility feature in our devices. So for example, we can say here mil image or something like that, right? So right now we won't see anything here despite we make the build and refresh. Why? Because this image needs to be loaded in runtime, so we won't see anything here. So if I press, for example, run the application, well, I think it will probably crash because I'm missing the internet. Yep, we are missing here the user's permission internet, right? So yeah, that's it. And then we can run again our application, and it is supposed to be displaying the images here. Let's see blah, 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 blah. Okay, there is no displaying anything. We need to check what is going on, but oh yeah, I know what is happening here. We need modifiers, right? Why modifiers? Because we are not saying to the object what should be the size of each item for the image. So probably we are displaying here everything in a single line with 0 dps for the 8. So yeah, in this case we need to declare a modifier. As we already said before, everything or each composable needs a modifier, at least to start like configuring how they need to be displayed. So in this case I will write a modifier, and then here we can say size, and then we can say like 100 dps, right? So yeah, that's it. And then if we build and refresh or preview, probably we can see now that we have some items be displayed here in a square. And then if we run our application, then we need to see like our images, you see. So for images we need to set the modifier for the size in order to display the content, but we want to make another thing. We want to make it circular, right? So in that case we only need to use a clip, and we need to declare a shape. So currently Compose provide to us this circle shape, so it is very easy to make our image in a circle shape. So yep, that's it. So we have like the circle shape, but then we are seeing that probably our content is like not being displayed correctly because we are like cutting here the image. So that's another property for the image composable. So that property is content scale. Let's see. Yeah, content, well, we can say like scale, and let's see, it is not displaying this. Okay, content scale, and then we can say that that content scale should be cropped. And then you can see here I have the suggestion to use content scale crop, and then if I set that property, I can run again my application and everything should be displayed correctly, right? You see, now it's a perfect circle displaying our images. Then we can start working with the description, the title and the description, right? So for that, I can start writing here another column. That column allows us to declare the text for the title and the text for the description. So for that, we need to write a column. Then this column won't have any kind of modifier or property. Then we can start writing a text. This text should be the title. Then we can say meal name. In this case is the name. And then we can say text meal description. And that's it. Okay. So if I build and refresh, obviously I can see that content here because we are not loading that information from internet. So yeah, it seems like good, right? So if I run the application right now, we can verify our content. Seems well, but we can do it better, right? We can set we can insert a space here in order to avoid like having the content very very well displayed here. Probably the title can be bold and the description can have like another kind of color, right? So everything of that can be made for from Compose or using Compose. So let's do it. We need to start working inserting a space here, right? So there is a composable called spacer, and then it requires a modifier. Then we can start writing modifier, and then that modifier we can set like set the width of that composable, and here we can say like, hey, we want to have a space of 20 dps, right? So if you can see now, if we rebuild our example, we are seeing that, yep, we have a space here, right? So yeah, then we need to continue working with the title and the description. So for that part, we need to start working here in each item. So for example, we want to have like padding for each item of that text to be displayed, right? So in this case, I can say, well, I forget the comma, then the modifier dot padding, and I want to have a padding in all this in the left, top, right, and bottom of 5 dps. Okay, that's enough. And then we want to set a style to our text. So in this case, we want to use the material theme. Then we want to say that we want to use the typography. Then we want to use the H6 typography, but we want to modify a little bit that component. And instead of creating a new object that extends of H6 property like this, we want to say like copy. Then we will copy that element but modifying a little bit their components, right? So for example, font weight, and then we want to say, hey, the font weight for this H6 copy should be bold, right? So in that case, we want to make this text bold, and that's it. If we build and refresh this content, we will see that now our title or the name of the meal, it's different. We have set the padding, and if you can see, it's a little padding here, and then we have a bold typography here, right? So it's the time for the description. The description should be the same, so probably here we want to say that we want a modifier to include a padding of 5 dps, but then we want to have a different style for this content, right? So we will use the material theme, typography, then we want to use here our caption, and then we want to copy this content in order to modify a little bit that object, right? So in this case we will use font weight, and the font weight should be normal. Font weight, here is the normal, and then the color, we want to modify the color. So in this case we can say color gray. We want to have a color gray in the description, but we want to modify the alpha component for that color. So we can say the same, we can copy, and then the alpha component we can modify in a very easy way. So we can say like we want to have 0.6 yep, float for the description color, right? So if we build and refresh this preview, we will see that we are displaying in a different way our content, right? So that's it. We are created our content to be displayed in Compose using, for example, the ability, you know, it didn't require a lot of code, and we only write Kotlin code, right? So we have like our content here, as you can see. We have like our title or description and an image here, and then we can we have support for dark theme, right? If I change to dark theme, that's it. We have like our dark theme enabled, and our content is compatible with the dark mode. So just one thing missing here is that, for example, what happens if we want to preview this content for dark mode and light mode? Okay, so this is very easy thing. So in this case we can say, hey, we need to start working with this material theme, but as you remember, we need to use a surface in order to display the correct content, right? So I will copy this and paste here, and then if I say, okay, I want to preview this in a dark mode, so UI mode and dark, oh sorry, it's night, yes, we import that part. And if I build and refresh this content, we will see that we are not displaying in dark mode, but we want to go further and we want to display both of them, so the light mode and the night mode. So okay, that's a very cool feature. And then if I, for example, say I want to have two previews, it is valid. We can have two previews with a different name, so I will say dark preview here. And then if I build and refresh or preview, let's see, yeah, here we go. We have like two previews, the light and dark mode, but this is not the whole thing, so we can go even further for that part. And what happens if we want to display only one, but we want to have like both previews, but we want to display only one? Well, in that case we can work with groups. So for example, in this case I can say light preview, and here I can say that we want to use group but dark preview, right? So as you can see right now we have a switch preview group. So if I click on this, we are seeing that we have all. So that means that we are displaying both of the previews. But right now I have like the group for light preview and dark preview. If I press in light preview, I will see only the default preview or the light preview. And if I change to dark preview, I will show the dark preview. And that's all. So it's very easy to test or to preview our composable functions here. So yeah, as you can see, there is very it was very easy to build our application, right? So it is only a matter of modifiers, setting the content, and modifying the style of the text, and that's it. We have our design made by Compose without having an adapter, an XML file, everything of that legacy stuff, right? So that's it. This is our first live code, and we have a very easy, I think, live code example where we will be using animations, and I request the help for Eric that will help us to deal with this live code example. So Eric, all yours.
Thank you, Armando. Let me share my screen. And as soon as you can see it, please tell me. So, okay, because we are encourage you to please start using composable framework. I want to share with you how easy it is to build graphics or layers in order to create logos or images or something, and also animations, because it's very easy to achieve this kind of goals. So in this code session, we are going to start building this famous logo that some of you can recognize it because it's Google Photos logo. So for this, as we already see, we have this function composable and a preview, okay, to start looking without compiling our code, okay? So let's start. For this example, I'm going to also create a column, a composable column that is a container, as we already see, that I'm going to pass it here a modifier to a couple of things. The first one is going to be fill max size, which will be filling all my vertical and width size. So also I'm going to set a vertical alignment to center all of the composable childs inside this container. And also I'm going to set it both for the horizontal alignment, okay? So if I refresh my screen here, we're going to see that this is going to be, as Armando example, a rectangular white space that is going to be set it because of my column composable, okay? So let's wait a couple of seconds more. And as we can see, here is my column filling all my height and width space, okay? So now I'm going to set another composable object that is called canvas. And canvas, as you can see, also have a modifier for their attributes, and I'm going to set it a modifier size. Let me modifier. Yep, for giving them a size of 300 dps. So I'm going to import dps. And if I refresh here, a canvas is used for as also in real life to start drawing objects, okay? So here I can see this canvas with 300 from height and 300 for its width, as I declare it here. And it is aligned on the center of the screen because I write these alignments here in my column, okay? So column is a container that is going to fill our composable childs one after each other in a vertical way, okay? So here inside my canvas, what can I start drawing? As soon as I draw for functions, I can arcs, circles, images, lines, ovals, paths, points, rects, round rectangles. That is just, as you can see, there is very simple figures that we can build right inside our canvas, but with some creativity ideas and so much talent, you can build very complex drawings. Okay, so for this example, as you can see, we need to set semicircles or half of circles that here inside my canvas we can draw circles, but also I want to use an arc, because an arc, it can be seen like a portion of a circle, so it's going to be very useful for achieving this goal. Okay, so what my arc needs to be built, I need to set a color that I already have all my colors set it in the color file, also a Kotlin file, and this is all the colors that we are going to use for this example. So I need to give it a color. Also, I need to start to give a start angle that I'm going to set it with 0 as a default. I'm going to explain it later what does this means, and also a sweep angle, and last but not least, uh, another argument that it's called use center. Okay, and I'm going to set it on false, and I'm going to refresh my, my composable. I'm going to refresh my preview, and it is already, let me refresh it again. And okay, it is ready, but as you can see, there is nothing inside it yet, because it is because of this couple of arguments. Okay, the star angle is the one that is going to start drawing my drawing, but this sweep angle is the responsibility to start already drawing. Okay, as soon as I give, oh sorry, another value to this sweep angle, I can see that it start to draw a little arc right there. Okay, so if I set it more and more, we're going to see much more of the arc. And if I set 180, I can see a semicircle, a half of a circle, and this is the thing that I want, but it is not on the correct. Well, it is drawing, but not as I can expect. Okay, so this attribute called use center will help us, if I set it on true, to start drawing our circle, but using the center of the canvas as the point of start. Okay, so as you can see, this is more intuitive, because if I set 90, we can have a quarter of a circle, and also 180 for a half circle, and entire circle we need to set it on 360. Okay, so for this example, I need a half of a circle, but if you can see, I have it in an horizontal way, and I need it on a vertical way. Okay, and I will help, this start angle will help me to start describing when I want to start my arc. Okay, so if I give it a 45 angle, it will be starting to draw on a 45 angle degree. So I will set it on 90, and also there is already on a vertical way, but I need to start seeing to the opposite way. Okay, for this we can achieve it by doing a couple of things. We can set it to 270 to achieve the correct angle to start. But in personal opinion, I use more the negative ways to set it. Okay, because if it is look like this on an 80 degrees, I want the opposite. I just give a negative value. Okay, so there you go. I have the red circle, the red arc, and I'm going to copy and paste here to set it the next one that is going to be the blue color. And because I've paid it, I copy and paste it with the same values. I'm going to see that the blue circle is like overlapping my red arc in the same position. Okay, so there you go. And for this, I need to have it on this position. So I will start with 0, as you remember. It is the way they start with 0 degrees on start angle. Okay, so I have it on the both arcs on the correct way, but as you see, they are like filling all my canvas height and width, okay? So for this, I need to rescale them. And I will use an attribute on the arc that is called size, very intuitive. So here is size, and I need to pass as an argument width that I'm going to set get width. I'm going to explain later what is this about, and also a height. Okay, so the same for height. I'm going to set it here, and as long as it's refreshing, I'm going to see that this is a extension function that it's for the draw scope. Draw scope is everything inside of a canvas that can be displayed. And I said get width. This is stands for this size and pass the width. Okay, this size, it's like having the reference of my arc that is contained inside my canvas. So width is going to be the size that I already defined for the container, okay? So this get width will be giving that I have all the width of my canvas and also the height, okay? So, but what about if I said like, please rescale it, but just in the half of its width, okay? So I will refresh it, and you will see that this red arc is going to fill, but just in the half of the width of my canvas, okay? So it's kind of the thing that I want to achieve. So I want to do it also for its height, okay? So if I refresh it and see what's happening with my arc, I'm going to see that it's already taking just the half of the width and the height, okay? And that's it. I have already what I'm trying to achieve, but I need to have it on the very center of my canvas, as you can see, okay? And this by default, all the composables are set it on the top left angle of the container. So I need to offset this a couple of size to the right. So for this, I'm going to use something called top left, that here I can pass an offset, okay? And what I need to achieve here is to pass a value for x-axis and also for the y-axis, okay? So what if I refresh here? Well, for this, it's going to be, if I can see how it behaviors, is that this the width for my canvas is going to be the x-axis, and this is going to be the y-axis, okay? So this means width, and this means height, okay? So here, as I already do it for width, I'm going to say like, please give an offset on the x-axis from the width size, okay? So if I run it, I can see that there is no more my red arc, but yeah, there it is. Just that it is out of the canvas because I give an offset of all the width of my canvas, okay? So I will say like, please give that offset, but just the half of its value, okay? So if I refresh it, I'm going to see that the red arc is inside my canvas yet, but not exactly in the position that I want, okay? So as easy as you can see, I will give that just a quarter of the width, okay? So there you go. We have it on the correct position as my canvas, and I'm going to do it the same for my red arc to the blue arc, okay? So if I refresh it, sorry, I have misspelled here. Yep, I'm going to copy this and set it here. Yep. Okay, let's down here, and let me refresh here. I will pass the same as my red arc here, and there you go. We have it really scale it, but I need to pass that. Please, the offset will be for half of the width, and also for the height will be get height just a quarter of the height value, okay? So if I refresh it, I'm going to see that the blue arc is going to be on the correct position right now. Okay, so there you go. We have the half of the logo. We're going to go much quicker than I have, but I want to explain it all of the attributes of this arc. Okay, so let's continue. We're going to set this for the yellow arc, and if you can see, the yellow arc, it's going to be the opposite of the blue arc. So as I tell you before, for achieving this, I just need to start playing with negative values. Okay, so if I express this to negative, I'm going to see that it is the opposite of my blue arc. Okay, so it is right now in the position that I want, but not offset it on the right position. So I need to display it anything. I don't need any display offset for x-axis. So if I refresh my preview, I'm going to see that the yellow arc is going to be on the correct way. Okay, so it is missing just the final arc that is going to be our green. But as you can see, it happens the same for this. Okay, I need the opposite of the red arc for my green arc. Okay, so I'm going to copy the red arc and copy here, but with the green color. Okay, so I want to refresh it, and I'm going to see that it is in the same position as the red arc. And as I saw, I going to like erase this negative value, and I have it on the opposite of the red arc. I just need to display it in the correct way. Okay, so it is already on the correct with the offset, but I need to offset it on its height to the correct position. Okay, so I'm going to give this offset of the half height, and there you go. I'm going to see that we have built our Google Photos logo. Okay, but as a good pinwheel, we already we are going to give it further to achieve a quick animation. Okay, so here I'm going to set a value that is going to be my transition. And as Armando said, we have a lot of functions that help us to remember state of conditions of our canvas. Okay, so here I need to set a remember transition, infinite transition, that will help me to achieve this state, and also provide me with some of the functionality for for an animation. Okay, so here inside, don't panic because of this abstract behavior, because it's something of the preview, but don't worry, we're going to get back the position that we already defined. Okay, so I'm going to declare this an animation that it's going to be delegated with our transition that I already built before. Okay, so here we're going to use something called animate float that needs this. Okay, so let me. Okay, so I'm going to display it. Oh, sorry, here. Okay, so we need to achieve 3 values. Okay, the first is going to be the start position, that is going to be in I got to split. Yeah, sorry, just to see. We need an initial value that is going to be the in the 0 value, and as I want to give a complete transition on its C axis, I need to have from 0 to 360 degree. Okay, to be a complete spin. Okay, so also for this I need to have something called repeatable, infinite repeatable, that is a function for animation aspect that will need an animation, and a function called twin. A twin will help me to set a duration to our animation. Okay, that is set it on milliseconds, and I will set it on 2000 milliseconds, that it's 2 seconds, okay? It will take for 0 to 360 degree a couple of 2 seconds to achieve this, okay? So as you know, I need to set this animation to our composable. I need to, the thing that needs to rotate is our canvas, okay? And as you remember, modifiers are the one responsible for behavior and decoration, okay? So here I have an attribute for modifier that is called graphic layer, where I can set these kind of behaviors for functionality, maybe transition, rotation, scaling. And here I have an attribute for rotation in the z-axis that is going to be the depth responsible. And it's easy to just declare our animation here on the rotation z of our canvas, okay? I will align this, and I'm going to refresh. So I'm going composable here for our text. Okay, let's build a text. Then I'm going to pass this just to have our label called Google Photos. Okay, so also as you see before, we can also pass here a style. And let me, okay, a style that using the material theme object, we can have this typography, colors, and shapes defined, already defined, and I'm going to set it on the paper of the typography, okay? And also I'm going to give a color that it's going to be a gray color, and to have a space between these two canvas, I'm going to set a modifier of a spacer that it's going to be 64 of size, that is going to achieve this space between these both canvas, okay? So I'm going to refresh here, and you can see that we have already our combo here, okay? It's look very, very nice. And another thing that it's cool about preview is that we have this interactive mode that it's like start running without compiling to a physical device or emulator. And this is interactive mode bring us this functionality. Okay, so when I start it, we're going to see that our animation is going to happen. Okay, so there you go. We have our beautiful pinwheel spinning from there, but it looks like an animation, a loading animation, and that's because we have here also an attribute for an animation that it's called easing, and easing help us to like define how our frames are going to be displaying. Okay, linear easing help us to achieve that every frame of the animation will have the same behavior. Okay, so if I refresh here with our easing attribute and start again our interactive mode, we will see that it will be a much smoother animation. Okay, so if we run it again, there you go. We have this beautiful animation, and there, yeah, I think that's all. And as you see, this is a very easy way to achieve these kind of things, and just in a couple of lines using Kotlin. So I think that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
Thank
the
you.
live coding, Armando and Eric. So I think we just in time for all the presentation and 1 minute left for our Q&A session. I'm not sure if our participants have other question for our speaker today related to the content, related to the live coding. So you can unmute yourself and share your idea with us. If not, I would like to ask for your favor. I share with you the Google form in the chat. So please feel free to share with us your feedback about our event today in terms of content, in terms of presentation skill, what we can improve it better for the further event in the future. So we will learn from it, and we will learn from it and improve our event. And I would like to thank our please follow us in our social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram for the updated. Yes, Alexandra, you have questions?
Yeah, hello. I just wanted to say that I really think about this presentation, really think a lot to all of you. And I would just like to ask is there going to be any further, I don't know, training about this? If is there going to be any other event about Decompose or Android with
And activity for mobile yet, but we will keep you updated via Facebook and our Academy website. So we often so you can sign
So it okay. Thank you very much.
yeah. Yeah, okay. Thank you, team. So I think we can start our workshop today. We would like to thank you again for your time and stay tuned with us. We will have more events in the future, and we will send out the announcement in via email, also update via social media for your information. So thank you again, team. Have a nice day and have a nice evening.